Thank you so much for joining this live. This live is going to be a conversation with Rahmon from Loud Parade, where we are going to be talking a little bit about how to get branded music in your shorts, animations, and campaigns or commercials. We're going to be talking to him, asking him a few questions. For any of you that don't know who Loud Parade are, they are they're an award-winning music creative agency who have worked with the likes of Samsung, JBL, Fenty. So they've worked with quite big brands, and one of the entrepreneurs, or both the entrepreneurs and owners of Loud Parade, have won over. They've been featured in Forbes as the Black Entrepreneur of the Year award in 2023, and they've also, with a lot of views, they've actually had 8 billion with a B campaign views. So they know what they're doing when it comes to finding creating relationships with creatives to basically make copywritten or to get copywritten music for your for concepts and campaigns and commercials. So for those of you just joining, just to reiterate, we are going to be talking to Rahmon from Loud Parade, where we're going to be talking about copyright music and how to get it in our pieces. If you're a director, if you're a creative, and you know how hard it is getting copywritten music. What I will say is ask the questions. So if you have any questions about the process, because we're going to be going through it anyway, but if at any point you're like, I don't get this, or I have this burning question, feel free to ask, because there are no silly questions. So I'm going to get him to jump on. Cool. So just before he jumps on, we are going to be running these lives every Thursday at 1 p.m. usually. I know we're a bit at a different time, but we are usually running these at 1 p.m. If you have any other burning questions, feel free to ask in this chat. And also there are actually a few other lives that we've done. We did one with Charlie Dennis, where we talked about his career of getting signed to Low-Key Films, and we also spoke to the owners of Double Dice, a post-production company in London. So we're going to be running these lives quite regularly. So after Christmas, we'll may have some in-person events. So stay tuned. Make sure you're looking at the Shiny Opportunities website, where you can essentially get the latest on what's happening, what we're doing, and yeah. Let's see, let's join him in. And Rahmon is with us. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Ooh, he might be having a few internet issues. Welcome, 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 everyone. For anyone that's just joining, we're going to be talking about copyright music with Rahmon, who is from Loud Parade. We're going to be talking a little bit about how we can get those tracks for our campaigns, brands, animations, and commercials. I'm just inviting him back in. There we go. So you can ask some questions about how to get that stuff into your work, especially if you're a director or if you're a producer and you're on a production and you need branding content, maybe from a copywritten artist. They can help you deal with how to actually get that track onto your work, or negotiate a way in which to kind of, pay to get it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Shiny Gang. As I said before, if you have any questions about at any point of the live, please feel free to ask. Because, hello,
Hey, hey,
how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Third time lucky. Made it in here.
Thank you so much for joining,
No
Ramon.
worries.
So I kind of want to just basically start with like because we've given you a bit of an intro of just saying that you run a music a multi-winning music creative agency, but I want
Yeah,
you to sort of talk a bit about what you do because I think you probably do it the best justice. So like,
sure.
how would you describe what your business, like what Loud Parade does?
Yeah, appreciate it. Really good to be here. And apologies for the delays, guys. So my name's Ramon. I run a multi-award winning music agency called Loud Parade. So we're a music creative agency. So what we do is we connect brands with the most exciting artists, musicians, producers, and license their music to brands for campaigns across different media platforms. So that can be Instagram, that can be TikTok, that could be like YouTube ads, and that could be like old school TV commercials as well. So our job is to find the most exciting talent across different genres and give them a platform and opportunity to showcase that work through brand campaigns. That can be through like licensing existing songs that are on Spotify, Apple Music, finding how they may fit a mood, create a certain tension, certain emotion that we need for a creative, or it can be making music from scratch, that sort of thing.
Okay, because I want to jump in and sort of like talk about like the literal process, like I know nothing, like almost like I know nothing,
Mhm.
right? So like in terms of first of all, like say for example, we're on a production, who is the person that's usually contacting you? That so say for example, we're working on a commercial, who is the person? Who's your first point of contact essentially?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, every campaign is different. A lot of the time, I get panicked producers hitting us up like, oh, we're trying to license this song, but it's going to cost this much, or we don't know who the publishers are. We can't clear it. Can you come in, save the day, and help? That's when I put my cape on, and we do usually help. And sometimes that can be quite last minute. Other times, it can actually be those in the creative team who have requested to work with us. They've heard about us, we've been referred, and they want to, collaborate in that way. It just generally depends, but I'd say usually creative directors and producers are the ones belling my line.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so would you say that okay, so it's usually them. Could it be anyone in like say for example if there was a
Mhm.
director, could it be them that goes, "Hey, like I've got this track,
Yeah.
don't know how to get because in our world it's like we're like I have this track. It fits the piece
Yeah.
amazingly. I want to use it for this piece. How do I get this? Is that where you're
Yeah,
giving it to you?
we get loads of requests like that as well, and it's hard when you have like a creative vision, and music's such a core component, but the licensing of music is so complicated. So that's where we come in to make that process a lot smoother. So saving like time, energy, money, stress when it comes to music licensing, for anyone in the creative space, to be honest. And what's exciting is our network of artists is global, different languages, different genres. So that's a really,
Okay.
yeah, I think people don't realize that about us. Like we're constantly scouting and partnering with really exciting labels, emerging labels, just collectives, crews, different people in music across the world. So it's quite broad.
Question. So then, say for
Mhm.
example, because you said that you're recruiting, in terms of different label, well, different people that you're working
Yeah,
with, could
partnering.
it be a situation where I'm like, okay, there's this artist that I really love, don't
Mhm.
know what their management situation is, don't know really much who they are. I've just heard their track, it's gone
Mhm.
viral maybe, or they're on a different place in the world.
Mhm.
Would we then come to you and say, hey, I heard this really
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
right,
interesting because I think with music, there's like music and then the music business. So we're there to help with the music business side.
right,
So because we're already in the industry, a lot of the time we're either speaking to their labels or we know who owns, because a lot of music's complicated. It's like this label is actually owned by this person or this person signed to this publishing group. but you wouldn't really know unless you're in the business. So
Right.
we help you to focus on, the creative side, whereas we handle like the dirty work, so to speak, of like actually finding the admin, who owns the track, who are the writers, getting it cleared. That's where we can help.
Okay, so anyone listening, essentially, when we are like, okay, love this track, love this vibe,
Hmm.
I'm gonna call our parade because I don't know how to get this track and legally
Yeah,
clear it.
yeah.
So we're just gonna
Come to
call you
us.
guys. Perfect.
Yeah.
In terms of like how long that takes. Also, anyone who's like curious about this process, ask some questions. Feel free to ask any questions. In
Appreciate
terms
it.
of how long the process takes, because for example, like when you're in production, usually it's like you've kind of decided to use the song, and then you're like, it could be anywhere between the end part of the production or mid, and you're just like, I love this song, I want to use it, and then you've just thrown it in there, and you haven't really cleared it, and it tends to be in a messy stage. How long would it usually take to kind of like sort of get that song cleared? Or and is it longer if it's different songs? Is it longer if it's different people? Yeah.
Yeah, great question. To be fair, we're all in the creative space, and let's be honest, the creative industry can be a bit of a mess in the sense of like timelines, deadlines, things that are last minute. So we're very understanding of that. Obviously, every campaign, every brief is different. What I'd say is looking at what factors would impact that. So, if you're talking about like a major label artist who's, I don't know, in America, or we're in the UK, but let's say they're in America or elsewhere, that's going to maybe take a bit longer. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
You got to think of time. Another thing I've learned this year, especially, is time zones. Time zones can either make you or break you. Sometimes, you might be working on a campaign, but luckily the US office hasn't woken up yet, and that might buy you a bit of time. Or it might be like you need to get something in, you're waiting for them to wake up, these sorts of things. But going back to the question, I think ultimately it depends on the label, how big the artist is, how many writers there are as well. These are things that can impact. But I think for us, we're constantly in dialogue with these publishers and these artists, so it helps. And I think sometimes when you go direct and there's no rapport or trust, it can be treated with suspicion. But if you come to someone who's constantly in dialogue, they've broken bread with us before, then it's a lot more of a trustworthy sort of situation, particularly when it's so delicate where you can't afford for them to say no because you've based your whole creative around this track. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
You want to give it the
yes.
chance of it getting cleared. So often it's not actually the message, it's the messenger, you know?
Okay. So then with getting, for example, if you wanted to then get I guess in the way that depending on what track you want will like determine the budget you have. Is that how it works?
No, I would say come to us with an ideal budget in mind and then go from there. Because if you want like a weekend song for 10 grand, that I work hard, but I can't make that happen, mate. Maybe I can. I don't know. 2025, let's be optimistic. But it really does depend on like the level of artist. Come with a budget. So at least we know what we're working with, and then we can manage expectations before any relationships are um, put at risk or compromised in any way. Do you know what I mean? Then we can actually come up with a plan, like be super transparent. This is all I've got. Okay, maybe you can't get that weekend song, but we can get you the bleak end, you know? He's not the weekend, but he's the next weekend. I don't know. Same sort of sound, same sort of emotion. It just depends. So, yeah.
Moving away a bit from, and also remember, if anyone has any questions about the process of getting sort of like copywritten music, which is what we're talking about in this topic for brands, shorts, and animations, and campaigns and commercials, feel free to throw in some questions. What I wanted to then sort of like move on to is more to the side of the sort of like creating sort of like soundtracks and also like the bespoke music that you guys create. And I just wanted to sort of like ask that process, like um, for is it a situation where you start with the production company from the start, or is it the end, or is it that you kind of fit in where you see fit?
Um, Yeah, we can get involved at any point in the process, to be fair. I personally like to get involved from the beginning, so it's more collaborative, but I understand there's certain politics or NDAs, certain situations, people can't get you involved immediately. Sometimes it is a throw on the cake situation, last minute, can you help? Or they've forgotten they've had to license the music or budgets are tight. So we can come in at any point. But I'd say ideally building together is always stronger, but just in the creative world, sometimes that's not always possible. Sometimes they're trying to figure it out on the music side, but we help with music strategy as well. So if you have like a vision, a concept in
Okay.
mind, we can play you some tracks. We can come up with things together. You can brief us. Like we're very, very flexible in that sense.
Because I
We
think
are creative as
yeah,
well.
because I think you had it on your website that you guys sort of like also look at the sort of analytics, and I've also started to work with a bit of AI as well in music as well.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for AI music. Obviously, there's a lot of complications, but the way we do it, we have like a really cool formula where we test which emotions people can feel when they hear a piece of music. So that can be really useful for creative directors, advertisers who want to attach their brand to a certain emotion, and music's probably the easiest gateway for them to do that. It's definitely the one that has the most resonance. You know, when you think of a lot of ads, it's actually the music that you'll be humming back to yourself in the shower or where else, you know?
Yeah.
So it can help an ad or a message live much longer than that 30-second spot if you choose the right music.
So then I suppose in this process, say for example, if you're a director then, just to kind of wheel it back to that, you could be a director that's like, you know, okay, I've got this piece that I want to work on. Um, if, you know, could an independent director work with you guys?
Yeah,
Like, could it be a situation where they're creating this, they're creating this, you know, maybe it's a spec ad and
mhm,
they're like, okay, I want the best of, you know, I want the best way to kind of like make this spec ad work. Could they come to you guys and say, hey, I've got a lot of money, I'm independent, you know,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how we work with our artists as well. Our filter is how good you are, like quality wise, not how much money you have or where you're coming from. If you have the talent, if you're serious about your craft, we want to collaborate. We want to work together. We say we have artists for every budget range, so it's just a conversation. Like, why not? And even if we can't work together on that specific occasion due to budget or timelines or anything like that, there's no reason as we build and as that director builds we can't collaborate. I think it's actually good to. I think this needs to be done more actually, particularly in the UK creative scene, like getting in there early and just like having those conversations and collaborating early on.
Mm.
Um, People who know me know my favorite thing is a side mission, like a little side project or something. So get that out of the way, figure out how we can collaborate our styles of working and just build from there. Obviously, budgets are important, but at least have the conversation to see. Because if it's something that's more visionary, maybe we buy into the long term success of that project.
Amazing. Okay, so then anyone listening, like if you're independent, if you're an independent creator or director, reach out because it can actually happen. We can make something cool.
100%.
We have got some questions. So apologies if I butcher your name. Stephisily asked, what's been your favorite, most satisfying campaign to date?
Ooh, I try not to do favorites, but we did do a campaign with Fenty, which is Rihanna's makeup
Oh,
brand. So I
nice.
think that gets the best reaction. So I'd pick that as like a standout. But I love Nike. So when we first got to work with them, we got to work with them on two
Oh,
occasions.
wow.
So yeah, working with them, I think little Ramon, 10-year-old Ramon was quite proud of that, and the artists involved were as well. So yeah, I'd say those two campaigns were pretty
Wow.
special.
In terms of how they sort of like got in contact with you, was it just they just found you and was just like, "Hey, we want to work with you."
Yeah, oh, it's a funny story of the Nike one. With that, we did a pitch, a co-pitch with a creative agency, and
Okay.
we came in on the pitch on the music strategy side, and we basically said like whoever does the best dance to our song wins a year's worth of Nike trainers. Like I was thinking proper blue sky with it, and they actually took the idea. So I was like, okay, if you like the idea, let's run the track. And then we made the track, and it got like 3 billion views on TikTok. It was crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it went super
That's
viral.
insane.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got another question from Stephisily. Let me know if I'm butchering your name. What is your dream collab?
Ooh, do you know what? I on in the advertising world, I would say I want to make a bank or an airline cool. I think that
Really?
would be really,
Okay.
yeah. If you
So
could take
what you're saying
banking,
is, if there's any directors listening, send through a pitch.
literally. To be honest, I just love music and I love culture and I see the power that brands have and I think it's being underutilized. So any
Okay.
opportunity to kind of bringing them to life through sound, that's kind of what we're about. That challenge excites me. But if you're talking about a specific advertiser, I think banks could be really interesting. There's a lot they can do in terms of solid branding, in terms of emotional resonance, in terms of testing, in terms of building trust with finance. These sorts of things are really important. So yeah, I
Hmm.
could see like a play there.
in terms of how people can contact you, like for example, like literally taking them through the process of like, all right, I need music, where am I going, who do I talk to, what do I do, what is like the process?
Okay,
Say for
so
example, like we're a director,
different for different
independent.
people. So if we're talking artists always find us, to be honest. Like artists, what I love about, especially emerging artists, they're so hungry. So they'll often like DM or they'll go through our portal on our website. Like they artists just always find a way to get in touch, and I really respect that about them. But yeah, it's just a case of actually just reaching out either DM or through our website. There's a portal there for artists to submit their music, and then we can set up a call, a session, that sort of thing. In terms of like directors and producers, you know how the industry is. Usually they come across us through referral. So someone who's worked with us before or heard about us or been recommended, that's usually how they'd get in touch. They usually drop me an email at ramon@loudparade.com. But we're always open to conversations, collaborations. One thing I'd say is we work pretty fast. I think that's a unique selling point about us. Like we're used to working under pressure. We're quite nimble. So that really suits the way the industry is at the moment, where it's just so like haphazard sometimes.
Mm,
Uh, but we like to bring order when there's chaos, right? So just one less thing to stress about is the music. So if you like outsource that to us, then it can at least allow you to have the time to focus on all the other complicated parts of creating an amazing ad.
amazing. So I have a burning question, and also if anyone has any burning questions, and also for the people, hello to the people that are just joining. We're talking about branded music in commercials, animations, shorts, and all that kind of stuff, and getting copywritten music, and also signing on artists for that and creating bespoke music. Um, how long does the license last for?
Oh, so that depends on the
Right.
campaign. So some licenses are like 3 months, 6 months.
Okay.
Some are like a year long.
So it's very
If you want,
bespoke to.
yeah, it kind of has to be, to be honest, because let's say, just to give a quick economics lesson, let's say it's like a forever license, like in perpetuity, that's usually 3 to 5 times the budget. So you're
Right.
paying more. So if the brand has that kind of budget, sure. But the reason that's so expensive is because you're foregoing all royalties, you're taking complete ownership. It's like a non-ideal situation,
Mm.
I'd say, for the artist anyway. Quite an old school model. I think in the modern era, staying independent slash doing collaboration, doing a licensing deal is a lot better. It's a lot fairer to the artist. So yeah, I'd say it just depends.
Okay, so then with that process, is it that when we like say, because I'm imagining it, because for a lot of the people on Shiny, it'll be sort of there'll be some independent directors, creatives, producers, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
If they then were to contact you and they got this started this process, we got the track, amazing, great, and we've got it on our piece, cool. Is there a percentage that if the brand makes money or not, whatever the situation is it that you guys have a stake in the final outcome, or is it more
So the
we
way
pay
it
you?
typically works is let's say you're Nike and you've commissioned us to make a song, you'll have a budget in mind. We will then go with that budget and find three artists that will make three different styles, quite distinct styles of music for that campaign.
Right.
We'll pay them to do that. We'll then go back to the brand and be like, which one do you like? We may have one that we think works, but we'll let the brand just, objectively say, okay, we're feeling this. They may ask for our insight or whatever. They'll then select the one they want to develop further. We then go back to that artist. They develop the track further. So that
Okay.
process is like a demo process, right? They
Right.
they develop it further. The brand might have a couple of iterations. They usually don't because when we shoot, we score. But like they might have one or two tweaks. You make the tweaks. You then handle the licensing. That license will state, okay, this is how long the campaign is. It might even have some renewal options, it might not. And then from there, okay, cool, you've got that track for X amount of time and you can make as much new content in that time period with it. If the license expires, usually you'll renew it just before it expires and you can make new content. That doesn't mean you have to take the content that you put up within that time period down. It just means you can't make new content past that expiration date.
Right. Okay. So
Usually
essentially, so the brands could technically still run the same ad, but just not.
new content. Usually,
Right.
usually.
Okay.
Every deal is different, but that's like a overall.
Okay. That's super helpful.
Yeah, music
um,
licensing is complicated.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that's why I think it was so like super important that we had this conversation because like a lot of artists out there will go to like sort of these sort of not agencies but they'll go to sort of subscription websites where essentially they're getting kind of generic stuff and they don't necessarily they want something very bespoke and maybe a
Yeah,
bit more
yeah. I mean,
just
the way I put it is, do you want a Rolly or do you want an Apple Watch? That's kind of how I look at it. If you want something that just kind of,
exactly
generic, any other brand can
e-
get it. Because
exactly.
you don't have an exclusive license if you go on one of those websites.
Mm,
Low quality, it's not gonna move you. It's just background. If you want lift
mm,
music, be my guest. But if you want proper stuff, like something crafted with the most exciting artists in culture, like I genuinely believe that, come to us and we'll like whip you something up that's like a bit more authentic as well. And be a part of the process. Like let's bring the art back to advertising, you know?
mm. That's amazing statement. But if anyone's got any questions, because we're gonna begin to round off, even though quite a few people have just joined. So we've just been talking a bit about music licensing in film, advertising, and just like basically creating it for video and any like sort of advertising campaigns. We have Ramon with us from Loud Parade. So if anyone's got any questions, and it could be about a project that you're working on, it could be something that you're about to work on, and whether or not you could sort of use Loud Parade in that process. Um, but yeah, in the meantime, if there aren't any questions, I want to thank you, Ramon, for coming on and having this chat because this is super important, especially as a director myself. Like this, like finding music is like the hardest part, especially when it's like artists that you really like, and you're like, okay, I don't know the process. You get to a certain stage where you can't just go, you know what, I'm just gonna put the music on and then just cross my fingers and
Yeah.
hope nobody sees them.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to be here. I think ultimately music makes the world go round. We see the power of artists like Taylor Swift, Beyonce. We see how cult their followings are. But it's at all levels. It's even like the independent emerging artists. I think there's a real opportunity. I mean, just logically, if you're an emerging director, why would you not want to find the next Drake? Why would you not want to find the next Stormzy?
Mm,
And then you can be known as the person that broke that artist through your piece of art. I think that's a real opportunity. I think if you're in this game for the long term, not just the clout, but actually for the long term and you want longevity, you should have the right collaborators across all parts of media. And music's a huge part of that. So yeah, we
mm.
can be involved in that process. But if it's a thing where you have a great budget and you just want to get to Drake and you don't know how, we also have that service too. So yeah, it just depends on your goals. But our job literally is to keep finding exciting artists of all levels. So yeah, anything music wise, we're here for you.
Amazing. I'm going to leave it on that because that is perfect. Thank you so much,
Thank
Ramon,
you.
for joining this live. There's going to be more lives happening. So, anyone watching, stick around for after Christmas. We'll be having these lives at 1 p.m. on Thursday. Thank you so much, Ramon, and
Thank you.
take care.
Appreciate you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.